Ah, so word finally got out, didn't it? Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind, the dangerous kind, the kind that travels through lowered voices, tightened shoulders, and glances people pretend weren't intentional. They didn't need a briefing, they didn't need proof. They just felt it the moment you stepped into the situation. There's something about you that doesn't sit in the normal intelligence category. Something too sharp, too aware, too controlled, too precise to be brushed off as coincidence. And now they're acting different, moving slower around you, choosing their words like they're diffusing a device, trying not to trigger a mind they suddenly realize might be 3 steps ahead while they're still fumbling on step 1. People thought you were quiet. Turns out you were calculating. And when they finally clocked the difference, the atmosphere changed instantly. Because nobody panics around a loud genius. Loud geniuses are easy. They advertise themselves. They want attention. They want applause. They want to be recognized for how impressive they claim to be. But a quietly dangerous intelligence. That's the one that makes their instincts tighten. That's the one that makes their ego fold. That's the one that makes them walk careful, even when they don't know what they're trying to avoid. They're not afraid you'll snap. They're afraid you'll notice. They're afraid you already noticed. They're afraid you caught everything they thought they hid behind tone, timing, and half-truths. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't change your pace. You just saw. And that alone was enough to make the smartest ones in the room ask the question they never wanted to entertain. How much do they actually know? Now they behave like people standing next to a switch they don't understand. Cautious, reactive, unnerved. Because once someone realizes your intelligence isn't normal, they stop treating you like everyone else. They start treating you like someone who could change the entire outcome without ever lifting a hand. The truth is, you didn't choose to broadcast anything. You don't even like explaining yourself. Because explanation assumes the listener can keep up, a generous assumption you rarely make anymore. You simply let people talk, let them reveal exactly what you needed to know. Let them unravel themselves in real time while you were silently connecting dots they didn't even realize they dropped. People forget that observation is a weapon. They underestimate how devastating it can be when someone simply pays attention. And you don't just pay attention, you track, you map, you calculate. You analyze the cracks in people's stories, the inconsistencies in their behavior, the micro-reactions they try to bury beneath forced confidence. You don't confront them, you don't expose them. You just file the information away until it becomes relevant. And by the time they recognize what you've been seeing, it's far too late for them to correct anything. That's why they're uneasy now. They don't know which detail you caught, how much you've pieced together, or what conclusions you've already drawn. They don't know what that sharp look in your eyes meant, or why you didn't react when they expected a reaction. They don't know why you didn't play into their narrative, or why you didn't rise to their bait, or why their little tactic bounced off you without leaving so much as a scratch. When someone realizes they miscalculated a person's intelligence, it shakes them. But when they realize they miscalculated yours, it rattles them on a deeper level, the kind that feels like standing near a drop-off in the dark. Your intelligence forces people into honesty without you ever asking for honesty. They can't help it. They know better than to present a polished version of themselves to someone who can detect fingerprints on motives. They know better than to lie in front of someone who catches the shift in tone before the sentence is over. They know better than to pretend when you're around. And this is what scares them the most. Not what you say, not what you do, but what you could do if you ever stopped being patient. People love pretending they have poker faces until they sit across from someone who actually sees the game. And something about you, your calm, your controlled presence, your unbothered focus, made people realize they've been playing checkers while you've been quietly rearranging the entire board. Now every interaction around you feels like people are approaching a wild animal that's been trained, but only to a point. They don't know what your triggers are. They don't know what your boundaries are. They don't know what you're capable of when someone crosses a line you didn't even bother to draw out loud. What really unnerves them is that they can't categorize you. You're not dramatic enough to be dismissed, not loud enough to be noticed early, not chaotic enough to provoke, not passive enough to get away with manipulation. You sit in that rare category of individuals who observe first, react last, and understand everything in between. And those are the people who historically change the direction of entire rooms without moving a single piece. People pretend to like straightforward intelligence, neat, predictable, easy to handle. But your intelligence is the type that bends situations by existing. You don't need to argue. You don't need to defend. You don't need to prove anything. You just let people reveal themselves, and that alone creates a gravitational pull that reorganizes dynamics. Now they're whispering things like, "Be careful what you say around them," or "They know things they shouldn't," or something about them is off, not in a bad way, just different. That different is what keeps them on edge. That different is what exposes every fragile ego in your presence. That different is what forces people to adjust their personalities like they're standing under brighter lighting than expected. The moment people notice someone who thinks differently, reacts differently, and processes differently, the environment changes. People don't admit this, but they're always evaluating risk, and suddenly you register as someone who can't be underestimated, someone who won't fall for emotional manipulation, someone who sees intentions before they're verbalized, someone who can read a situation and understand its trajectory, while everyone else is still stuck on the introduction. This is why people walk careful around you now. They're aware that you're aware. They're aware that you're 3 questions ahead before they finish one. They're aware that your stillness isn't passivity, it's control. They're aware that your composure isn't kindness, it's calculation. They're aware that your quiet approach to life isn't shyness, it's strategic management of energy. And nothing unsettles insecure minds more than someone who operates with self-control instead of seeking external bait. You mastered a rare art, the art of not giving people more data than they deserve. You don't overshare, you don't ramble, you don't announce your plans. You let silence do the talking, and ironically, it speaks louder than anything they could have prepared for. Your restraint is what rattles them. Your discipline is what confuses them. Your emotional detachment is what exposes them. And the more they try to understand you, the more they realize understanding you requires a level of depth they simply don't possess. So they settle for the only explanation that feels accurate to them. Their intelligence isn't normal. Not book smart, not trivia smart, not performance smart. Something else, something sharper. Something that feels like you've lived a life with lessons they've only begun to grasp. Something that feels like you learned how people work before they understood how they themselves work. Something that makes them feel like they're being evaluated even when you're just breathing. People aren't scared of intelligence. They're scared of intelligence that doesn't need acknowledgement. They're scared of intelligence that doesn't chase attention. They're scared of intelligence that watches instead of performing. And your intelligence fits into that category perfectly. You don't search for validation. You don't chase approval. You don't rely on reactions to gauge your worth. You rely on your internal compass, sharp, steady, unwavering. And that alone makes you untouchable in ways people can't articulate, but definitely feel. Here's the part they'll never confess out loud. They're afraid of disappointing you. Not because you threaten them, but because you see through them. People can argue with loud individuals. They can debate those who posture. They can undermine fools. But how do you argue with someone who understands your intentions better than you understand your own triggers? How do you lie to someone who catches the twitch in your expression before the lie leaves your mouth? How do you manipulate someone who already predicted your next move the moment you entered the room? This is why people suddenly shift their tone when they talk to you. This is why conversations become more structured, more filtered, more cautious. This is why people who once acted bold around you now hesitate, reconsidering every unnecessary word. Deep down, they know they can't treat you like everyone else. They know you're not the type who bends under pressure. They know you're not the type who gets distracted by noise. They know you're not the type who reacts emotionally when someone pushes. You're the type who studies the push itself. And that, right there, is the foundation of your quietly dangerous intelligence. You don't explode. You observe. You don't chase. You evaluate. You don't retaliate. You reposition. You choose your moves with intention, while everyone else flails around, hoping for coincidence to save them. People expected compliance. What they encountered was someone whose interior strength didn't match the exterior calm they underestimated. This is exactly the moment when the wrong people start circling. Not the harmless ones, the ones who believe they own the psychological terrain, the strategists, the instigators, the ones who operate with quiet arrogance, assuming everyone else is a pawn, wandering through their self-assigned kingdom. They look at your composure and mistake it for passivity. They interpret your calm as an invitation. They see your restraint and think it means you lack teeth. And that's the mistake that pushes them into your orbit with a confidence they haven't earned. There's always a small group like this, usually bonded by shared insecurity, disguised as intellect. They're the type who think they can shape a room with suggestion alone. They exaggerate their insight, overestimate their influence, and absolutely undercalculate the danger of testing someone whose intelligence doesn't reveal itself on command. And when people like that sense a mind they can't categorize, they don't retreat, they probe. They try to understand you by provoking you. They try to identify your limits by nudging the edges. They try to map your mind by forcing you into reactions you have no interest in giving. It starts quietly. A glance held too long. A statement padded with politeness but sharpened underneath. A question that carries the weight of an accusation but hides behind the tone of curiosity. They want to see how you handle pressure. They want to see if they can make you break character. They want to find the crack in your composure so they can convince themselves you're just like everyone else, fragile when challenged. But when they push, you don't tighten, you don't defend, you don't waver. You remain exactly as you were before their attempt, focused, balanced, unshaken. And that, right there, is what begins to worry them. The first person in the group to feel the shift is always the one with the weakest foundation, the one who needs control the most. They're usually the loudest in subtle ways, the sarcastic one, the one with the oddly timed comments, the one who hides hostility behind humor and calls it personality. They test you by directing a pointed remark your way, expecting you to stumble, flinch, or at least show a flicker of irritation. But you look at them with calm evaluation, not hostility, just awareness. And that awareness punctures their confidence more effectively than confrontation ever could. Their reaction is immediate. A stiffening of posture, a shift in eye contact, a recalibration masked as nonchalance. They realize you caught the intention behind the words, not the words themselves. They realize you're not operating at the surface level, and that realization spreads across their group like a ripple. They exchange glances that last half a second, too long. They adjust their shoulders, adjust their tone, adjust their distance from you. They're trying to pretend nothing happened, but tension has a habit of revealing itself in the smallest cracks. But this group isn't done. When one approach fails, they attempt another. Someone else steps up. The manipulator wrapped in charm. The one who acts warm, but watches every reaction with predatory focus. They try to lure you with friendliness, attempting to pry information out of you with soft words and calculated interest. But you give them nothing, not because you're withholding, but because you don't open doors to people who knock with ulterior motives. You respond in a way that answers without revealing. You engage without exposing. You speak without offering anything they can weaponize. That's when their smile falters. They expected compliance. They received neutrality. And neutrality from someone like you is more dangerous than aggression. Aggression can be countered. Defensiveness can be manipulated. But neutrality is unreadable. Neutrality is unsettling. Neutrality is a sign that you're not playing, you're observing. And people who rely on manipulation know better than to stay in front of someone who is quietly gathering data. The group regroups internally. They don't speak it out loud, but you can feel the adjustment. They reconsider their strategy. They reduce the friendliness. They increase the scrutiny. Their questions become more pointed. Their tone becomes more cautious. They start attempting small traps, not obvious ones, but the kind designed to test your reactions under pressure. They ask something ambiguous, hoping you reveal too much. They mention a detail that contradicts itself to see if you notice. They shift a story mid-sentence to measure whether your awareness is superficial or precise. And every time they try, you answer in a way that tells them you saw the trap before it was even fully set. You respond without stepping into the snare. You sidestep the bait without acknowledging it was bait. That's when they recognize their problem. They're dealing with someone who doesn't fall for tactics because you can see the intention behind them. They begin to realize your intelligence isn't just about understanding, it's about anticipating. Now the tone changes completely. The leader of the group, the one who feels responsible for maintaining the illusion of superiority, steps forward. They're not the loudest, but they're the most strategic. They watch people the way pickpockets watch crowds, scanning for openings. They think they've identified yours. They believe your quietness is a vulnerability. They believe your calm means they can corner you with a more sophisticated approach. So they attempt something sharper, a psychological move that's meant to unsettle you without appearing hostile. They bring up a scenario designed to hit a nerve. They make an insinuation disguised as a casual statement. They try to create tension with a comment that could be interpreted multiple ways. They do this because they want to see if your intelligence protects you only in low-pressure moments or if it holds steady in targeted situations. But here's the part that destroys them. You don't just remain calm, you decode the intention instantly. You respond with precision, not defensiveness. You acknowledge the surface of their statement while dismantling the hidden tactic behind it. You acknowledge the context without falling into the narrative. You answer in a way that exposes their attempt without embarrassing them, which is even worse for them psychologically, because now they know you saw everything, the setup, the angle, the desired reaction, and you chose not to play. The moment you reveal your understanding without aggression, the leader's confidence fractures. They were trying to corner you, but instead they backed themselves into a corner of their own making, and the rest of the group witnesses it. They watch their strongest player step into a mental exchange and walk away unsettled. They see the person they rely on to interpret social dynamics struggle to maintain composure. And when the leader cracks, the entire group feels the shift. From this point on, you're not the quiet one or the observant one. Now you're something else entirely, something they didn't expect, a threat. Not because you're hostile, but because you're accurate. Not because you confront, but because you understand. Not because you attack, but because you can dismantle a tactic without lifting a finger. This group was built on the assumption that they held the advantage in social intelligence. But now they're facing someone whose intelligence doesn't compete. It exposes. They start reconsidering every conversation they've had with you. Every joke, every question, every test, every remark. They replay their interactions in their minds, wondering which ones revealed more than they intended. Wondering how much you picked up that they didn't notice they dropped. Wondering whether their faces betrayed their intentions at any point. Because that's the fear you activate in people like this. The fear of having been seen before they could curate what you were allowed to see. They depend on controlling what others understand. They depend on projection, influence, and crafted perception. But you don't operate in crafted perception. You operate in patterns, inconsistencies, and the raw, unedited truth. And there's nothing more dangerous to manipulators than someone who can read what they never meant to show. Their minds begin to race in quiet panic. Not loud, not obvious, but in the tightening of their jawlines, in the way they adjust their sleeves, in the sudden lack of eye contact when you look their direction. They start whispering not because they have something meaningful to discuss, but because they're trying to regain a sense of control. Whispering gives them the illusion of secrecy, a last attempt at reclaiming advantage in a dynamic where they feel outmatched. And now, as panic mixes with pride, their strategy changes. When they realize they can't undermine your intelligence privately, they attempt to challenge you publicly. Not outright, they're not that brave, but through subtle positioning. They attempt to reframe you in front of others by hinting that you're misreading things, or too serious, or too quiet. They use coded language, small insinuations, the type of delicate digs people disguise under concern or humor. But the irony is brutal. The more they try to reframe you, the more they expose their fear of you. People watching can sense when a group suddenly becomes defensive around one person. They notice the shift. They see the tension. They pick up on the caution. And in environments like this, others always turn their attention to the quiet source of disruption. They start watching you too, but not with hostility, with curiosity. Because if a group known for manipulation suddenly acts unsettled around one person, that one person becomes more intriguing than threatening. And this only tightens the group's panic. It's a strange thing to witness. Individuals who once carried themselves like self-appointed strategists now stumbling through their sentences because they're aware you're noticing details, even they aren't aware they're revealing. They try to maintain their usual confidence, but confidence without grounding collapses easily. And with every failed attempt to control the narrative, they begin to realize something devastating. They picked the wrong person to test. One of them, the one who started this chain reaction, makes another attempt. A last one. A sharper psychological tactic meant to corner you through implication. They say something laced with double meaning, hoping to force you into defending yourself. They do this because defense is vulnerability. Defense gives them data. Defense gives them leverage. But you don't defend. You don't justify. You don't even alter your breathing. You simply respond with clarity so direct it slices the trap into pieces without ever acknowledging it was a trap. Your response is calm, stable, and precise, and that precision is what terrifies them the most. Because you didn't retaliate. You didn't escalate. You just dismantled the entire tactic with a presence that said, "I saw what you were trying to do before you even finished doing it." Humiliation doesn't require volume. Sometimes it's delivered in quiet accuracy. The group feels it immediately. Their leader, the one who believed they could corner you, blinks twice, trying to keep their expression neutral. But the damage is done. Their authority within their own circle fractures. The others exchange looks, subtle but telling, as if silently agreeing that the balance of power has shifted in a direction none of them anticipated. You didn't steal their influence. They dropped it the moment they tried to test someone operating 10 levels above their framework. Now the conversations around you change in tone. People in the larger environment start treating you differently, not with fear, but with a sort of sharpened respect, the kind reserved for individuals who clearly understand more than they reveal. They approach you with caution, not out of intimidation, but because they recognize your intelligence carries weight. It has gravity. It rearranges dynamics without noise or force. Meanwhile, the small group retreats into strategic silence, the kind where they pretend they're not recalibrating, even though their entire posture betrays that exact truth. They stay close to each other, not out of loyalty, but out of shared vulnerability. Their alliance was built on the belief that they were the smartest ones in the room. Now that belief is gone, and what remains is a fractured excuse for unity. But insecurity does not dissolve quietly. It mutates. The group begins observing you more closely, not with confidence, but with growing paranoia. They watch who you talk to. They watch how you respond. They watch how people react to you. They're trying to understand your influence, trying to measure how far your awareness reaches, trying to identify whether you now pose a threat beyond psychological exposure. And the tragic part for them is this: the more they observe you, the more they reveal about themselves. Because insecure people reveal their intentions through their focus. You notice how their eyes follow you, even when they pretend not to. You notice the hesitation in their voices when they speak near you. You notice their sudden avoidance of topics that once made them confident. You notice how they stop performing around you and instead default to caution. You don't need to confront them. Their behavior is confession enough. At this stage, their internal dynamic collapses further. The leader attempts to reassert control, but control built on insecurity evaporates under pressure. They attempt subtle hostility again, not to provoke you, but to save face within their group. But everyone in the group already knows the truth. Their leader couldn't handle you. They watched the exchange. They saw the shift. They felt the imbalance, and nothing they say now can rewrite what already occurred in front of witnesses. You didn't win because you tried. You won because they insisted on competing with someone who wasn't playing. This is the point where the group begins turning on itself. One person blames the leader for misjudging you. Another blames the first instigator for provoking the situation. Another tries to distance themselves from the confrontation. Another tries to pretend they were never part of it. And you remain unbothered. You remain centered. You remain aware. Because your intelligence never sought dominance. It simply revealed the truth. And the truth is this. People who rely on manipulation collapse the moment they are understood too clearly. Their power exists only in confusion. You removed confusion by existing as someone who sees without reacting. And once confusion is gone, their strategies dissolve like paper in water. By now, they don't just fear your intelligence. They respect it, even if their pride won't allow them to say it. They avoid challenging you again. They avoid testing you again. They avoid trying to manipulate you again. You've become the one person in the environment they tiptoe around, not because you demanded respect, but because you dismantled their attempts at control with nothing but insight and restraint. But here's the part they never expected. Your intelligence didn't just protect you, it exposed them. Now others see their behavior differently. Now others view their motives with suspicion. Now others distance themselves from a group that clearly folds under pressure. You didn't isolate them, their own insecurity did. But your accuracy accelerated the process. And once insecurity begins to bleed into the open, it spreads faster than truth. People who never paid attention before start noticing the shift. People who never cared about the dynamics suddenly become analysts. People who never gave the group a second look now watch them crumble with quiet fascination. Because here's the irony they never accounted for. When someone publicly miscalculates a person with your kind of mind, everyone else pays attention. Not because they're invested in conflict, but because people instinctively study what threatens their sense of stability. They saw how the group tried to corner you. They saw how you didn't flinch. They saw how the power shifted without volume, without force, without theatrics. And in a world addicted to noise, someone who reorders the entire environment through observation alone becomes a phenomenon worth decoding. Now people whisper your name not with gossip, but with caution. They refer to you the way people refer to an unexpected variable in a formula, the kind that changes outcomes without announcing itself. They don't look at you the same way anymore. They look at you the way people look at a lie detector they didn't ask to stand next to. Because once someone's intelligence gets noted, it becomes a silent authority, one that doesn't need a badge, a title, or a speech. Your intelligence isn't normal because it isn't performative. It disrupts simply by being aware. It rearranges simply by understanding. It commands simply by existing. And now that everyone has seen what happens when someone underestimates you, the environment adjusts itself around you. People become more careful with their words. They become more deliberate with their tone. They become more intentional about what they reveal. Not because you threaten them, but because they don't want to experience the silent humiliation the group endured, the kind where you don't even raise your voice. Yet everyone can feel the collapse. The shift is almost comedic when you step back and observe it. People who once dominated conversations now wait for your reaction before committing to their own. People who once challenged everyone's opinions suddenly look to you for confirmation. People who once believed they could shape the narrative now shape their sentences as if you're the internal editor they must pass through. This is the chaotic, dark humor of it all. You did not fight for authority, yet somehow you became the axis the room rotates around. And the group? They feel that shift with increasing discomfort. They know they triggered the reorganization. They know they picked the wrong opponent. They know they underestimated the one person they shouldn't have. Nothing feels worse to a manipulative group than realizing the environment trusts the person they tried to undermine more than them. But they're not done spiraling yet. There's a desperate phase manipulators enter when their tactics fail. The projection phase. They begin projecting their own insecurities onto you. Not publicly, they know better by now, but privately, through subtle remarks slipped between polite phrases. They try to convince themselves they still have some measure of power. They say things like, they're too serious, or they think too much, or they overanalyze everything. It's their attempt to reduce your intelligence to something manageable, something they can mock, something they can label. Because the mind always tries to shrink what it cannot surpass. But labeling you changes nothing. It only exposes their panic, and panic makes people predictable. From here, their behavior becomes easy to read. They avoid eye contact, avoid direct interaction, avoid any scenario where they might be forced into genuine transparency. Their confidence erodes not because you attacked it, but because your presence forces honesty they aren't built to maintain. And when someone cannot hide around you, they prefer to hide from you. But the environment doesn't follow them. It follows you. People begin gravitating toward you in small ways, asking your opinion on things they wouldn't have asked before, sharing observations they once kept private, positioning themselves near you in group settings without acknowledging why. It's not admiration, it's alignment. They recognize that your intelligence isn't just unusual, it's stabilizing. It provides clarity in places where confusion once ruled. And humans always move toward clarity, whether they admit it or not. Meanwhile, the group feels their influence fading like cheap ink under real light. They notice how people respond when you speak, or even when you don't. They notice how others pause when you raise a brow, how others listen more closely when you shift your posture, how others recalibrate when you redirect your attention. You didn't demand this attentiveness. It formed naturally around you, because people recognize the presence of someone whose intelligence operates on a different frequency. This is where the real shift begins, not in how people treat you, but in how they treat themselves in your presence. They double-check their statements. They catch their contradictions. They correct their own logic before you can. Your intelligence becomes a silent mirror, forcing people to confront their own inconsistencies, and that kind of influence becomes addictive for some and terrifying for others. The group hates it the most, because now they are the inconsistency, and everyone can see it. Their attempts to regain control become sloppier. They try to reclaim their old roles in conversations, but the environment doesn't respond the same way. They try to re-establish their old hierarchy, but the hierarchy has already collapsed. They try to speak with forced confidence, but the mask slips faster now because people are watching the cracks you revealed. And the most darkly humorous part, they can't even blame you for it. You didn't expose them. They exposed themselves while trying to outsmart you. Their downfall wasn't caused by your intelligence. It was caused by their miscalculation of it. Now they carry a quiet resentment, not toward you, but toward themselves. Because nothing torments a manipulator more than realizing their own tactics betrayed them. They replay the confrontation in their heads, not because they want revenge, but because they want to understand how they lost a game they thought they controlled. But the answer never changes. They were outmatched before the confrontation even began. While they unravel privately, the environment settles into a new dynamic that everyone silently accepts. You are someone whose intelligence deserves caution, not the fear-based caution people use around volatile personalities. The respect-based caution people use around high-level minds. You don't intimidate people with force. You intimidate them with accuracy. You don't dominate people with aggression. You dominate them with understanding. You don't command people with ego. You command them with perception. This is the essence of quietly dangerous intelligence. It doesn't need to announce itself because the environment announces it for you. People watch you the way they watch someone capable of seeing through fabrications before they're fully formed. They censor their slip-ups. They measure their arrogance. They soften their tone. Because once your intelligence gets noted, people don't just walk careful. They recalibrate their entire communication style around you. The group, however, takes longer to accept the new order. Their pride fights reality. They try to convince themselves they can fix their reputation. They attempt small social repairs, gestures meant to appear as maturity, efforts meant to appear as growth. But everyone sees through it. The environment doesn't forget shifts like this. Power dynamics don't reset just because the losing side wants them to. And deep down, the group knows it. Their internal conversations are filled with the kind of tension only denial can produce. They talk around the truth, not about it. They pretend the confrontation never happened, even though it defines everything that followed. They avoid acknowledging your intelligence openly, because admitting it would confirm that they were never the strategists they pretended to be. But the final blow, the one that seals the entire transformation, comes quietly. Someone outside the group makes a comment that changes everything. I knew something was different about them. They see things the rest of us miss. Not dramatic, not loud, just honest. And the group freezes because they realize the environment didn't just notice your intelligence, it validated it. Once the environment validates a perception, it becomes reality. And now the reality is this: your intelligence isn't normal, it's defensive, disruptive, and definitive. It protects you and exposes falsehood wherever it walks. From here, the respect toward you becomes permanent. Not loud, not theatrical, but deeply ingrained. People carry themselves differently in your presence because your intelligence forces authenticity. People speak differently around you because your awareness uncovers what they try to conceal. People behave differently toward you because your insight rearranges their understanding of themselves. And you remain exactly as you were, calm, intentional, controlled. Because quietly dangerous intelligence doesn't mutate under recognition, it deepens. Your intelligence was noted, then it was understood, then it was respected. Now it is something else entirely. A force people move around rather than through. A presence people adjust to rather than challenge. A mind people walk careful around because they know you see more than you say. And that is the power no one can take from you. The power people inadvertently gave you. When they realized your intelligence isn't normal, it's necessary.